Stay the franchise for the Baltimore Ravens. So the Baltimore Ravens finished up the regular season with a 11-5 record. They went to playoffs. They defeated the Tennessee Titans in the wild card round. Then they lost to the Buffalo Bills 17-3 in the division round. Overall, the Baltimore Ravens once again had a really good season. Now, the Baltimore Ravens came into this season with a lot of high expectations. There were a lot of people in the media who believed that the Baltimore Ravens could end up going 16-0 in the regular season. Now, obviously, that didn't happen. They had a couple of key injuries early on. Then they had the battle with COVID-19. But the Ravens fought through a lot of adversity. Now, one of the biggest questions about Baltimore heading into the 2021 NFL season is going to be the current status of current offensive coordinator Greg Roman. Is he going to remain as the OC? Is he going to end up getting fired? Nobody really knows. But Greg Roman was heavily criticized around the middle of the season after the loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. Then they had a late game loss to the Tennessee Titans in overtime. A lot of people were questioning Greg Roman's play calling. Now, Greg Roman's play calling improved tremendously during the last half of the NFL season, around the month of December, where this Baltimore Ravens offense really started to roll. When you look at Baltimore, I think the biggest problem that Baltimore has, and they have had this problem for over the last two seasons, is the fact that they still do not have a clear-cut number one wide receiver. Now, Hollywood Brown is going to end up being really good, okay? But Hollywood Brown is not a true number one wide receiver. He's more of a Robin versus being a Batman. I think that Marquis Brown would be better if he had a complementary piece on the opposite side of him. And if you are a Baltimore Ravens fan, you have to be praying to God and hoping that the Detroit Lions are not able to retain wide receiver Kenny Golladay, because Kenny Golladay is set to become a free agent. And if the Detroit Lions decide not to franchise tag him, they can't get a deal done. If you're Baltimore, you have enough cap space that you should be able to get a deal done. But even if you are not able to get a wide receiver like Kenny Golladay, you still could possibly get Marvin Jones, who also happens to play for the Detroit Lions as well. Now, he's 30 years old. Now, although he's a little bit up there in age, he still has like at least 3 good seasons left in the tank. And I think Marvin Jones could be another good pickup for the Baltimore Ravens. But for the Baltimore Ravens, they need some more help at the wide receiver position. You were hoping that Miles Boykin was going to have a breakout year, which he played pretty decent the last part of the season in December, but overall he's still not where I was expecting him to be in terms of his development. You got Mark Andrews, who also battled with injuries throughout the season. When you look at Marquis Brown, the biggest concern, the biggest question mark about Marquis Brown when he was going into the draft was going to be, we knew how fast he could run. We knew that he was going to be a great deep threat, which he is. But the question was, could he be a complete number one wide receiver running the underneath route and doing dirt in the middle of the field? So far, hasn't really been able to do that. This year, he had a lot of drop passes, really struggled. So for Marquis Brown, I think it would help him out a lot if the Ravens got another complimentary piece. I would really hope that they were able to get Kenny Golladay, which if they are, that would be tremendous. Now, another thing is going to be, okay, Lamar Jackson's contract extension. Now, Lamar Jackson is reportedly about to get a contract extension this offseason or next offseason. We don't know when it's coming, but we know that it is coming soon and it's coming really quickly. Now, I want to see what are going to be the roster acquisitions that the Baltimore Ravens are going to make before they get this contract extension done, because a big reason why Baltimore has been able to be so active in free agency and in the offseason over the last couple of years has been the fact that they have been playing with Lamar Jackson on his rookie contract. So what's going to happen to this roster when Lamar Jackson gets paid? Are they still going to have enough money to make some key acquisitions, to pick up some key marquee free agents? Or is Lamar Jackson pretty much going to dry out the bank account, is what I'm wondering. Now, in terms of Lamar Jackson's development, okay, Lamar Jackson, in my opinion, still had a really good year. Now, obviously, it was going to be really hard for him to follow up the MVP caliber season that he had last year in 2019. But to me, he still played pretty well. He had 2,757 passing yards, 26 passing touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Once again, was a threat on the ground. For Lamar Jackson, really, it's all about making sure that you surround him with another good wide receiver on the outside, because the offensive line needs just a little bit of improvement. But overall, when this offensive line is really healthy, this is a pretty good group. So for Baltimore, you're in a pretty good spot right now. The AFC North is going to be really competitive over the next 5 years. I'm really interested in watching it because you got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, what's going to happen with Pittsburgh? Because Pittsburgh has a aging roster. You have Ben Roethlisberger, who's pretty much on his last leg. This most likely is going to be his last year in the NFL after 2021. So what's going to be next for Pittsburgh? Life after Big Ben. What about the Cleveland Browns? The Cleveland Browns had a lot of success this year. Now, I want to know how consistent the Browns going to be, because I think that the Cleveland Browns may end up being the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings are always a team that is really inconsistent. They go to playoffs 1 year, they miss the playoffs the next 2 years. Don't really know how I feel about the Browns in terms of how they fit into the AFC North mix for the next 5 years in terms of consistency, but I do know that they are going to be a threat. I just don't know, are they going to be a consistent playoff team on a year-in and year-out basis? Then you also have the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals don't believe in Zach Taylor. You do have Joe Burrow, but I don't know how much confidence I have in Cincinnati. So when you look at the Baltimore Ravens, I mean, this division is going to be really entertaining to watch for the next 4 to 5 years in terms of who's going to be able to win it, because this is one of these divisions now that is right back to what it was at the start of the early 2010s when you had Cincinnati, you had Pittsburgh, you had Baltimore all at their peak. Remember, the AFC North was the best division in football, and it was not even up for debate. I mean, you had Cincinnati that was always making it to the playoffs. You had Pittsburgh that was always a constant staple, making it to the playoffs. You also had Baltimore, who was also making it to the playoffs. So now this division is back to the former form that it was once in a couple of years back at the start of the 2010s. So me personally, I think that Baltimore still is fit to have a more consistent run in the division, because you still have Lamar Jackson. You're still going to have a really good roster, but you still do have a couple of aging veterans that you're going to have to prepare for once they decide to hang it up, like Calais Campbell, Derek Wolfe. So for Baltimore, you're definitely heading in the right direction. Like, you're there in terms of being a Super Bowl contender. I mean, like, you're there. It's all about finding what piece is going to take you to that next level. Now, in terms of Greg Roman coming back, I would prefer to see Greg Roman come back, because Greg Roman, his offense was predictable this year, but I think that Greg Roman, maybe he wanted to add a couple more wrinkles into the offense, but he wasn't able to do it with the short and off season. The offense did improve during the last part of the NFL season. And in my opinion, it's not about how you start, but it's about how you finish. So Greg Roman finished the season out pretty strong. That offense was clicking. A big reason for that was because of the emergence of J.K. Dobbins during the month of November, well, late November and December. J.K. Dobbins has emerged so much that he has taken over as the lead halfback in Baltimore, which led to Mark Ingram not getting a lot of carries. Baltimore ultimately ended up releasing Mark Ingram at the end of the season a couple of days ago, which is really sad, because Mark Ingram, I feel like, was a really big part of establishing that culture that they have right now in Baltimore. Even though he wasn't as effective as he was in the previous seasons, he still was a very big part vocally in that locker room for Baltimore. When you had the post-game press conference that went viral when he was saying big trust, why he was giving his claim for why Lamar Jackson should win MVP. So really sad to see Mark Ingram go. Like, I think like he was a really underrated piece in establishing the culture right now that's currently in Baltimore. Now, you do have Dez Bryant there. What's going to happen with Dez Bryant? Are they going to bring back Dez Bryant? We don't know. I would like to see them bring back Dez Bryant, because I would just like to see Baltimore retain some veterans on the offense side of football, because I think that it's always good to have locker room guys, not guys who you necessarily expect to have a big impact on the field, but guys who can give you a added boost on in the locker room, off the field, helping the young guys out, helping being a mentor to the team, helping being a good young leader to the team. So me personally, I would love to see Dez Bryant return. I feel like Dez Bryant still has more juice left in the tank than what a lot of people are giving him credit for. But for Baltimore, if you are a Ravens fan, like, pretty much you're a Super Bowl contender. You should be competing for the Super Bowl year in and year out for the next 3 years. Like, you're right there. Like, your Super Bowl window is right now, because once Lamar Jackson's contract really starts to hit, like, I don't really think his contract is going to start to hit Baltimore probably until like his 6th, 7th year in the NFL, which is where the Baltimore Ravens may run into some cap problems, where they may not have a lot of cap space. But overall, this has been one of the best ran organizations in the NFL over the last couple of years. Everybody was wondering how Eric DeCosta was going to perform with Ozzie Newsome deciding to step down. And he's done a pretty good job, made a lot of big trades, has done pretty well when it comes to the NFL draft. So, I mean, I'm really excited to see the success that Baltimore has ahead of them over the next couple of years. So let me know what you guys think about the Baltimore Ravens down in the comment section down below. Make sure that you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content. And thank you guys for watching.